Hi, everybody. This is Todd Creager. I want to talk to you today about a common challenge that couples have in long-term relationships, and that is low sexual desire. Sometimes it's one of the partners, sometimes it's both of the partners. So I'm going to talk to you about it and some of the different factors that can contribute to it, and what we can do about those factors. So let's first talk about what factors contribute to low sexual desire, because that's a big topic. One are physical factors, and a lot of times, I'm talking about men and women. Talking about women, a lot of times women go, I don't know, I have a client right now. She says, I have this baby, 7 months old, and I just haven't been able to get my sexual desire back. I just don't know. I'm concerned about it. And I was explaining to her, I said, are you still breastfeeding? She goes, yes, I am. Well, when people breastfeed, the prolactin levels go up, the hormone that is there to help them do what they need to do to nourish a baby. And when prolactin levels go up, sexual desire goes down. It's as if the women's body is really right now all about keeping a little person alive and less about other things, including sex. So there are some things that we need to understand. We always want to look at the physical factors, always want to look at that. Of course, there's also different hormonal fluctuations that happen with women at different times of the month. So it's not uncommon for certain times of the month for women to be more libidinous than others. Um, and there's probably some of that with men, even though there's a lot more research to be done there as well. There are also some physical factors, physical problems, medical problems that might affect sexual desire. Certain heart issues and certain cancers and certain treatments that could lower sexual desire, not only psychologically, which is definitely true because of the stress of it. I'll get into that next, but the actual physicalness of it, the chemistry of it, that certain medications, antidepressants, for example, common ones like Celexa and Zoloft can decrease sexual desire and other sexual side effects as well. Other kinds of medications too for allergies. And so you always want to pay attention to what's going on. Obviously, one way to self-assess is to go, when did this start? Was I feeling more desire? And then, what happened? I know I had a client many, many years ago who was concerned that he lost his sexual desire. And when I found out when it was when he went on medication for antidepressants. And so it was a simple thing where the psychiatrist got involved in my situation. They played around with some other alternatives with medication, and everything turned out to be fine. So we want to rule out those kinds of things, medications, chronic illnesses, hormonal fluctuations, those kinds of things definitely can affect sexual desire. And we want to notice it. The lifespan issues, menopause, definitely can do that as well. So then there's also, besides physical issues, again, looking at as you self-assess, when did this start? If it's been lifelong, you look at trauma. Not just sexual trauma, but definitely sexual trauma. If a person's been sexually traumatized, they may be associating sex with the emotion of shame. And they might have a built-in protective system that lowers their sex drive because they don't want to feel ashamed. It's a way to protect themselves from shame or to prevent themselves from getting re-triggered from shame when they were sexually abused. A lot of people are sexually abused. They feel shame. They blame themselves. It's the whole blame the victim thing. Sometimes people are sexually molested, or they had, not sometimes, oftentimes they're still stimulated, and so they feel guilty about having any pleasure, which is totally normal. By sometimes enjoying the attention, which is totally normal. They're still victims. So we need to look at that. Not just sexual trauma, other kinds of trauma can definitely increase our arousal rate, hyperarousal, which can keep us in a fight or flight, which can definitely lower our sexual libido. Libido happens in an atmosphere of relative safety. And so when a person is living their lives and feeling threatened in some way, like they're not safe, then what I do when I work with them first and foremost is think about How do we help you feel safe? Sometimes it's changing the external environment. Sometimes it's doing things internally, changing the way they think, focusing on their body, helping them create a body that's more calm and that feels safe. So that's about trauma, but it's also related to stress and stress in general. When a person may not be traumatized, but in a lot of situational stress, maybe they've had some loss, maybe they've lost a person, they've lost income, definitely a family member who's dying. All those things can create stress, which can lower libido. So sexual desire, remember this, that it takes place, there's conditions for sexual desire. There are conditions for it to happen. And plants need conditions to thrive. So does our libido. And so we need to look at, do I feel relatively safe? Do do I have a safe environment? Is my partner making me feel safe? We'll get to other things about couples things in a little bit. So other factors that I've found, psychological factors for men, specifically men, I have found, but women too, but definitely with men. When men have had mothers that are very smothering, they're very needy, and um, the child grew up unconsciously regulating their mother, then the other way around. They sometimes will experience their intimate partner, not necessarily in new relationships, but as they get more committed, they may project onto that partner unconsciously, it's nobody's fault, the significant other mother, and will suddenly not want to get engulfed and taken over. So, as a defense, to protect themselves from being taken over, which is a childhood experience they had, that their sexual desire shuts down. I've seen this a lot with men. That's why I thought it's worth mentioning on this video. So again, when you're assessing, if you're a man and you feel, I've lost my desire, I've never had desire, or it's oftentimes been a problem when I'm in relationships for more than a few months or a year, you might want to look at, did I have a very needy mother who crowded my needs out, where I had to actually take care of her in some way, as opposed to just be a kid and be me. For women, more than men, I see a difference. Their libido goes down when they're emotionally disconnected. This is not a lot of big news for a lot of people in marriages or committed relationships. But it's important to realize that there really, truly is a physical component to this, that what lifts women's hormones up, such as estrogen and oxytocin, which allows them to be more sexual, is when they feel emotionally connected to their partner. So if there isn't that relationship, that part of the relationship intact, where the woman feels close, and how do you feel close? Where with my partner, not only do I feel safe in general, but I really feel safe in being vulnerable, in sharing my deeper self, and also that I feel close to you because you share your vulnerable self with me, which a lot of people aren't didn't learn how to do that. If you grew up in a home where you were kind of left on your own in your emotions, you're not going to naturally do that with your partner. So if it's the man that has this kind of avoidance attachment style where, like, I handle things on my own, I don't share a whole lot, it might push the partner to feel emotionally disconnected from you and can affect libido, sexual desire. Definitely, most definitely. Um, so another thing, I was trying to remember what I was going to say, and I did. I'm so happy when that happens. Is sometimes people misdiagnose themselves, and it's not sexual desire that is the original issue. It might be another sexual problem. It might be having arousal difficulties, especially for a man, or orgasmic difficulties for a woman. So they have these arousal difficulties, and they don't. It feels like low sexual desire, but what's really going on is they have this aversion to feeling like a failure. I'll be talking about that in an upcoming video about performance and how it gets in the way of sexual connection. But oftentimes people will misdiagnose a sexual desire issue for an arousal issue, and vice versa, which I'll talk about next time. So there's a lot of reasons why sexual libido might go down. And I'm going to say that it's not abnormal and we shouldn't panic. And we should try to understand what this low libido, low desire is telling us. What is it communicating to us? What's going on physically? What have I changed physically? Is there some trauma that I need to process? Is there uh, is there some situational stress that I'm going through that is making me feel like on alert all the time, which shuts down my sexual system because I'm just trying to survive? Do I feel emotionally connected to my partner? Am I feeling, did I have a partner, a mother or father, I guess you could say, definitely the man with the mother that enmeshed me, that kind of suffocated myself, and I had to be there for her rather than me be free to be me? Because if that's the case, maybe that's something. It's a protection. It's a protective device. So feeling safe, emotionally connected, all these things that I'm mentioning, we want to look at that. And the solutions are based on what the factors are. And if there's more than one factor, we need more than one solution. Sometimes that's true. But typically I find there's really mainly one factor that is the major contributor. And so like this man I talked about who had an antidepressant, we changed out his antidepressant, experimented with a few different things because his mental wellness was important as well as his sex life with his partner. Um, there's there's and there's other things like with trauma. I do a lot of work. People might have heard me say I do EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's kind of the original reason why I got trained in this, because as a person who specialized in low sexual desire, I found that when a person was molested as a child, I wasn't as successful in helping them bring out their healthy sexuality. But when I learned this process of EMDR, I was able to help the person, whether it's a woman or a man, to process with oftentimes pretty efficient speed, process the childhood molest or this kind of sexual violation so that they're free of it and they're free now to be their healthy sexual self. So even though I use EMDR for many other things, that was my original motivation for learning this treatment. So with trauma, that really is a great way to go, and I'm here if you need me. What else? Developing, um, well, first developing learning knowledge about physical issues, chronic illnesses, what its effect are. How do I adjust my expectations so that I don't feel like something's wrong with me? As human beings, we all have all kinds of challenges in our lives. It's part of being human. We shouldn't judge ourselves for it. We got to work with ourselves the best way we can. In terms of emotional connection, what's the remedy? Learning how to open up and be vulnerable with each other. Yes, I can help you with that. That's what I spend a lot of time doing as well, helping people connect, especially after there's been a disconnect, helping people deal with stress. Yes, I help people with that. Help people deal. How do you get stress hardy, dealing with some of these situations that might be challenging, so that your play life with your partner and your love life and your sex life doesn't totally go out the window. And of course, maybe there's some situational things people could do as well, and I could help with that. But what I'm saying is, oftentimes, how do we change the internal environment so that you're hardier and you can find that place inside of you that can stop and not be so stressed, which gives you the opportunity to experience your libido. So that's what I wanted to say about sexual desire, low sexual desire. There's so much more I could say about it, but I think at least you can listen and get a sense. If you think this is helpful for somebody else, please share this video. And again, I'll be talking about uh, arousal difficulties in a very new upcoming video. So thank you for listening. This is Todd Creager, making the world safe for love.